Black Lives Matter movement driven by occult practice. Many Americans support Black Lives Matter movement because we actually agree with the statement by which it's named. Of course, Black Lives Matter. But at its core, Black Lives Matter is dark and evil. The organization's founder, Patrisse Cullors, Elisa Garza, and Opal Tometi are known as community organizers, but there's more to the story, much more. You've likely seen or heard about the recent resurfaced 2015 interview with In Colors, where through Colors revealed its true underpinnings. We do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. Karl Marx, the founder of Marxism, was a Satanist. In his poem, Human Pride, he admitted his desire was not to improve the world, but to destroy it. With disdain, I will throw my gauntlet full in the face of the world and see the collapse of the pygmy giant whose fall will not strife my ardor. Then will I wander godlike and victorious through the ruins of the world, and giving my words an active force, I will feel equal to the Creator. Sound familiar? Well, I don't know. Maybe a little bit like Lucifer. Not only are Black Lives Matter founders trained in Marxism, an ideology with demonic roots, but its founders are actively operating in the demonic realm, here and now. Spirituality is at the center of Black Lives Matter, said Cullors during June 13th Zoom call with Dr. Melina Abdullah, co-founder of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, as they discuss the methods by which they practice traditions from West African places. When we come out onto the streets, we pray. The first thing we do when we hear of a murder is we come out and we pray. We pour libation. We built with community where the person's life was stolen, said Abdullah. The term libation is by definition the act of pouring a liquid as a sacrifice as to a deity. As Abdullah described the act performed on the street, she added, and it took almost a year for me to realize that this movement is much more than a racial and social justice movement. At its core, it's a spiritual movement because we are literally standing on spilled blood, and you can't pretend like that's work. That's just like someone organizing work. Heber Farag, Assistant Director of Research at the USC Center of Religion and Civic Culture, examined one of Abdullah's rituals, and she explained that as Abdullah was pouring libations on the ground, those present chanted Ase. She clarified that the Yoruba term is often used by practitioners of Ifa, a faith and divination system that originated in West Africa occult practices, emphasis added. And Cullors did not argue with Farag's assessment, but she actually pointed to the article and its writer to help viewers properly understand the spiritual foundation and practices of the Black Lives Matter movement. It's a very important practice, said Cullors. Hashtags are for us way more than a hashtag. It is literally almost resurrecting spirits so they can work through us to get the work that we need to get done. I started to feel personally connected and responsible and accountable to them, both from a deeply political place, but also from a deeply spiritual place. Abdullah examined that when they say the names, they invoke the spirit, they invoke that spirit, and then those spirits actually become present with you. Maybe I'm sharing too much, she said, but we become very intimate with the spirits that we call on regularly. Abraham Hamilton, host of AFR's The Hamilton Center, covered this story Tuesday and described the Ifa practices. They're not doing what you think they're doing, he insisted. You think they are just honoring people. They are conjuring up spirits. It is no surprise that Black Lives Matter has also taken under its wings the LGBTQ cause, a movement that by its very essence is shaking its fist at the Creator. Black Lives Matter is an anti-God organization that to many is appearing as an angel of light, a benevolent cause. As of mid-August, 49% of registered voters support Black Lives Matter, according to Civics. on an online survey research firm. The compassion of many believers, including Christian leaders, is too often misdirected through support of Black Lives Matter. As usual, Christian leaders are always easy to fool. It's being real. And others are attracted to a different kind of lure, the bait of victimhood, a mindset that enslaves rather than liberates. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these things, the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 6. All scripture is God-breathed and useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness, so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 16 to 17. God has given us all that we need through his word and his spirit to love our neighbors. Love is not found in darkness, love is found in light. I always knew there was something just, the outrageous demands of the Black Lives Matter when it came to certain things. White people building them homes and white people giving up their land. It's just a lot of things that is just, it's just crazy. All right. And it just came to a point that, it's just plain nuts. All right. Now let's read more on this Karl Marx again. All right. Marx, a devout disciple of Satan. According to the Black Book of Communism, communist ideology is responsible for the death of almost 100 million people. Most people assume Karl Marx is to be an atheist. He himself propagated from such ideals, but an investigation into the individual lets us discover that this was a ploy to disconnect men who follow Marxism from the divine. As for Marx, he always carried satanic tendencies brought forth through his poems and books. It's hard to understand why communism turned out to be. It isn't so hard to understand why communism turned out to be the destructive force it is. Agent of evil. The satanic side of Marx can be glimpsed in the numerous poems he wrote in which he lashes out against God and takes the side of the devil. In some poems, he equates himself to God, having power over all creation. In part of poem titled Human Pride, Marx reveals his desire to replace God with himself. The words I teach all mixed up into devilish muddle. Thus, anyone may think just what he chooses to think. With disdain, I will throw my gauntlet full in the face of the world and see the collapse of this pygmy giant whose fall will not stifle my ardor. Then will I wander godlike victorious through the ruins of the world, giving my words an active force. I will feel equal to the Creator. The first two lines of the poem also explain one of the main objectives of Marxism: to cause confusion. By clever use of words, communists make people believe that they can think whatever they want, that they can do not have to concern themselves with right or wrong, since morality is arbitrary. By laying down this belief as the foundation of society, communists are able to commit great anarchy. A couple of verses from the poem called The Fiddler are even more explicit in revealing Marx's obsessive worship of Satan. Till hearts bewitched, till senses reel, with Satan I have struck my deal. He chalks the signs, beats time for me. I play the death march, fast and free. Marx's destructive streak is present in one of his unfinished poems he wrote during his youth, called Overlenum, Tragedy. Verses read, "The world which bulks between me and the abyss, I will smash to pieces with my enduring curses. I'll throw my arms around its harsh reality. Embracing me, the world will dumbly pass away, and then sink down to utter nothingness, perish with no existence. That would be really living." What? All these poems point to a lonely, psychologically damaged person who is angry at everything, angry at God, angry at society, angry at humanity, and angry at anyone who thinks differently. In fact, his desires for destruction seems to be driven by the realization of his own insignificance and worthlessness. To understand why Marx would have felt worthless, one has to look at how he made a living. During the several years Marx was cooped up in his home to write the various theories of communism, it was his friend Friedrich Engels who worked to provide his money. In fact, Engels gave half of his income to his friend every month. Marx essentially was able to live his life and take care of his family using this money, given that most men get their sense of identity by working and taking care of their family. Depending on another man's hard work to fill the needs for almost all of his life is sure to have made Marx feel worthless to some degree. The Rothschild connection. Engels was not only one who supported him, he is said to be related to the Rothschild family and was employed by them to subvert democracy. One of Marx's grandparents was Nanette Solomon Baron Cohen, who belonged to a wealthy Amsterdam family. Her cousin had married Nathan Mayer Rothschild and bore Lionel Nathan Rothschild, Baron and Member of Parliament for the City of London. Whoa. Communism and cannibalism. One of the most satanic things a human being can do in life is to eat his own kind. Communism regimes has been known to result in cannibalism. This has been true across Russia and China. Utopian ideologies eventually drive people into such poverty and hunger that many end up choosing to eat another human rather than die with dignity. In the Russian famine between 1921 and 1922, it is well known that some peasants engaged in cannibalism. Lenin was apparently overjoyed that the famine was killing millions of people, as he believed it would end the public's faith in the Star and God. He believed that socialism would eventually follow famine. According to estimates, around 5 to 10 million people died during this horrible period. The Soviet Union underwent a major famine between 1932 and 1933 under Stalin. People not only cannibalized human corpses, but also kidnapped children in order to consume them. Oh my God. In China, the country faced similar abhorrent times under the ruthless leadership of Mao. His policies were partially responsible for triggering a 4-year famine between 1958 and 1962, in which an estimated 15 to 30 million people died. And just as in Russia, some Chinese resorted to cannibalism to keep themselves alive. In a commune, people were found to be eating dead bodies and were selling them as pork. Some killed their own children. Mao kept his eyes closed at such deaths. In fact, he and his party members believed that the famine was punishment the people suffered for not believing in the Chinese Communist Party. The complete destruction of spirituality and sacredness of life meant that people under communist rule became mentally conditioned, seeing others as merely objects. As a consequence, when the famine struck, they started viewing humans as potential food source. This is something that would never happen where people were strongly rooted in their spiritual traditions. The sacredness of human life would have blocked people from engaging in such heinous activities. Yet this is the person that black people want to follow. This is interesting. And then you have black people who will say, like, so what if Karl Marx was, a racist? He was a Satanist. Doesn't mean we can't use his ideals. Really. This is going to be scary because there's a food shortage coming. And I've said that before. Prices of food is going up. So this is going to be scary when, you have people in the black community trying to live up to communism when times like that hit. This is Patrisse Cullors. I'm going to show you her prayer to Ayami. Here we go.
Beginning, as we like to say, of consciousness. But in the case of a black child born in this country, when he opens his eyes on what we call the big world, he discovers two terrifying things. First of all, he discovers that he does not exist in it. No matter where he looks, by which I mean books, magazines, movies, there is no reflection of himself anywhere. Or, if there is something in the book, and I mean by now also textbooks which are used in all our schools, if he looks for himself and he finds anything which looks like him, he is authoritatively assured that this is a savage or a comedian who has never contributed anything to civilization. And that's not all. Then he begins to wonder how he, who is, as somebody else put it, half the size of the rest of the world on a nickel to his name, is going to survive this brutality. And again, according to me, that is the root, the beginning of this demoralization.
Notice of intention to circulate petition. Notice is hereby given by the persons whose name appear below of their intention to circulate the petition within the County of Los Angeles for the purpose of amending Chapter 3.79 of the Los Angeles County Code of Ordinances to revise the powers and duties of the Los Angeles County Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission. A statement of the reasons for the proposed action as contemplated in the petition is as follows. Los Angeles County is home to one of the largest jail systems in the world. Most people in Los Angeles County jail are awaiting trial or were sentenced for non-violent offenses. Many have unaddressed mental health or substance abuse issues, and many are homeless upon release. Los Angeles County has the largest population of people in jail with mental illness of any jail system in the country. Los Angeles County spends far less on vital prevention programs such as homelessness programs and youth prevention programs than it does on incarceration programs that can more effectively stop the cycle of crime and save county resources. Youth violence prevention, mental health treatment, and housing programs that address chronic homelessness work better to prevent crime and reduce wasteful spending in the justice system. Drug addiction and mental health issues, especially when combined with chronic homelessness, drive many crime incidents, especially nonviolent crime incidents. These drivers of crime often get worse with jail time, not better. To unburden the jails with problems it cannot effectively address, Los Angeles must invest taxpayer dollars into prevention and treatment. The county is now on the brink of dedicating billions more dollars to construct 2 new jails. It is time to stop this wasteful cycle with a new public safety strategy. The Reform Jails and Community Reinvestment Initiative calls upon Los Angeles County to develop a more sensible approach to costly cycles of crime. The initiative paves the way for the county to reduce recidivism, prevent crime, and permanently reduce the population of people cycling in and out of jail that are experiencing mental health, drug dependency, or chronic homelessness issues. The Reform Jails and Community Reinvestment Initiative will task existing Los Angeles County Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission with developing a comprehensive public safety reinvestment plan and feasibility study to reduce jail populations and redirect the cost savings to alternatives to incarceration. The plan will identify needed prevention and treatment programs to stop crime cycles and will map out steps to create a new public safety approach. to bring Los Angeles County into alignment with best practices to reduce crime by redirecting resources. The initiative will also ensure that the Commission has the tools necessary to do its job, including enhanced powers to conduct independent investigations and to require attendance of witnesses and production of books and papers pertinent to its investigations and oversight. Los Angeles County urgently needs a more effective strategy to stop the cycle of crime and to save county resources. This cycle is costly and ineffective. Jails cannot effectively address underlying issues related to mental health, drug dependency, or chronic homelessness. The Reform Jails and Community Reinvestment Initiative is a sensible approach to develop a new public safety strategy to save county resources and to protect, restore, and strengthen our communities. Signed by Patrice Cullors, Juanette Cullors, Mark Anthony Johnson, Heather Miller, and Priscilla O'Shea.
Another battle begins. And the battle is involved with wresting. So now stealing from, creating out of. So entirely hostile environment, some sense of yourself. I don't want to be rude to anybody. Just for example, there is on the face of it no real reason any black cat to comb his hair. And when it's done, and then everybody's right to whatever they want to do. I'm not really, attacking how people dress. But when it's done, it's a reflection. It has to be a reflection of the civilization in which he was born and the values of that civilization. Because he was born into a civilization which said arbitrarily and had the force to prove it that Robert Taylor by definition and Gary Cooper by definition and Eisenhower by definition are better men than you. And you do your best to somehow deal with this. And we all know Negroes who've done everything in their power to turn white. I don't mean people who pass. That's another story. I mean people who look like me. We never eat watermelon. Never go anywhere near fried chicken. Are always impeccable. Who cannot be seen at 4 o'clock in the morning, maybe, without a tie on. Because they are respectable. And they're going to prove it. They're going to prove it to whom? This is one, only one, of the terrible things which one has got to deal with and use and transcend in order to become a man in this country.
Initiative measure to be submitted directly to the voters. The County Council has prepared the following title and summary of the chief purpose and points of the proposed measure. Los Angeles County Sheriff's Civilian Oversight Commission Ordinance. The purpose of this proposed measure is to enact an ordinance amending Title III of the Los Angeles County Code related to the Sheriff's Civilian Oversight Commission. The measure proposes adding Section 3.79.210 entitled Comprehensive Public Safety Reinvestment Plan to reduce jail population and provide alternatives to incarceration by researching and developing the plan within 7 months of amending the county code, conducting a feasibility study to timeline the plan to reduce jail population and strategy to reinvest jail system costs into prevention and mental health treatment. The measure requires the committee and the plan and study to identify existing proposed and alternative options to arrest and incarceration for nonviolent crimes where mental health, substance abuse, and chronic homelessness are issues.
And since I have the habits of an older brother, or since I consider myself a poet, I do not want to see any more black lives.
Okay. If you want to see the rest, you could, find the article to do so. But that's all there is to it. I mean, you don't have to do all that, symbolism and makeup for that, but this is basically a a way to try and mix the occult, with a civil rights issue. A lot of people will say, like, well, it's not all of them who are like this. Well, my thing is like, how do you, if the organization is not meant to be like this, why aren't they, why aren't they making press conference? Another thing is, how did you let it get this far? Did you let people, a part of your chapter get this bold and let them go out of control to get this popular and get this strong to the point that you can't tell them what to do? It's basically what it is, because you let it get to this point. So it's kind of hard for me to accept the fact that that this is just a rogue part of Black Lives Matter, and we're the good part of Black Lives Matter, and and it just, this part of Black Lives Matter just happened to just go out of control. Sorry, I think that's a lie. Black Lives Matter, the organization, is not about Black lives. It's not. It's about deceiving Black people for a communist ideal. All the money donated from Black Lives Matter went straight to the Democratic Party. What does that tell you? All right. Later.